Our planet is burning up. Even with just 1 degree Celsius of warming so far, the impacts are devastating. Scorched Earth, drowned cities, mass extinctions. But what if it gets even hotter? What if temperatures rise not by a few degrees, but a shocking 15 degrees Celsius? More than an inconvenience, this would utterly transform the planet as we know it. Welcome to an Earth unrecognizable from space. The ice sheets of Greenland and Antarctica are gone, and ancient glaciers vanished. Sea levels have risen over 50 feet on average, drowning coasts worldwide. Deserts span continents, rainforests burnt to dust, and endless storms rage over desolate wastelands. Is this the dreaded Venus syndrome? Runaway warming triggering hellish conditions like our sister planet? How did we let this happen? Could we have stopped it if we acted sooner? Let's uncover this nightmarish vision of a future Earth and investigate how an apocalyptic 15 degrees of warming could become a reality. But before we dive further into this scary scenario, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to join our community on mini-doc adventures into hypothetical realms. Violent weather would be the new normal. Imagine supercharged hurricanes, torrential flash floods, and searing heat waves that make Death Valley seem mild. Freak storms with unprecedented power would rip apart coasts and flatten cities in hours. The weather would become utterly unpredictable, no place safe from the extreme wrath of an overheated atmosphere. Searing heat waves lasting months would render many regions uninhabitable, pushing wet bulb temperatures past human survival limits. The humid tropics would be boiling pots where simply walking outside causes heat stroke. Even temperate zones would blast into the 120s Fahrenheit on the regular. How could civilization function in such extremes? Ravaging wildfires would consume entire forests in days, belching smog that blots out the sun. Raging infernos would spread faster than we can flee, overwhelming cities and their power grids. Fire tornadoes spin into the heart of suburbs as helicopters desperately evacuate residents to overloaded shelters. Is this what the future holds? Abandoned skyscrapers peak above the waves, marking the graves of metropolises once teeming with millions. Only the luckiest fled in time as the surging tide gradually claimed block after block. Where bustling ports once connected the world, only empty horizons remain, patrolled by salvage ships scavenging the drowned ruins. Miami, New York, Shanghai, sunk beneath the merciless swell. Who will be driven from their homelands next as the seas consume our coasts? Hundreds of millions of climate refugees flee the suffocating heat and encroaching shorelines, desperately migrating toward remaining habitable zones. But scarce resources cannot support these teeming masses, inciting conflict and chaos. Panic spreads as the last livable lands cannot absorb the endless influx of migrants. Ecosystems are collapsing as mass extinctions rip through the natural world. Half of all species have vanished, food chains unraveling at a dizzying pace. How many unique wonders have we lost forever, exterminated by our reckless warming of the planet? Gone are the prismatic corals, jewels of the sea. Gone are the majestic tigers and lyrical birds filling the forests. Gone are salmon surging up streams, monarchs fluttering across meadows, and the roar of magnificent beasts across the savannah. Silent spring has settled upon a sterile world. Desperate pollinators struggle to sustain critical crops as flowers wilt in the withering heat. But the famished still swarm the barren fields, scrabbling for any morsel left. Haunting images of emaciated shadows fighting over food shock the world. Is this what awaits us? Widespread famine as life crumples? Where spring once blossomed, now only dust storms howl across barren wastelands, relentlessly scouring the land. The deserts have conquered continental interiors, rainforests shriveled to scrub. With so little left green, what will become of those surviving the endless droughts? The geography of our world is shockingly transformed. Which regions now lie drowned beneath the swollen seas? Where has become so hot that even stepping outside is fatal? As habitable zones shift, how will civilization endure such upheaval? The oceans have risen over 50 feet on average since the ice caps fully melted, redrawing coastlines unrecognizably. Only rugged peaks remain of most continents, surrounded by endless horizons. Maps must be redrawn. No border remains where it was. West Antarctica is revealed as a mountainous island once buried under mile-thick ice. Alaska connects to Russia across the Bering Strait, now a vital trade route. Only the peaks of the Himalayas, Andes, and Rockies peak above the sea. What lands will we find if the waters recede? Equatorial regions crackle with relentless deadly heat, wet bulb temperatures spiking off the charts. Even shading and water provide little relief as sweat boils off the skin. How could anyone endure laboring in such natural blast furnaces? Is air conditioning the only reprieve? Temperate zones fare a little better, summer temperatures now scorching 120 Fahrenheit on average. Thermometers have burst to try to measure the extreme heat of megacity streets and desert wildfires. Has hell displaced heaven on earth? As society teeters on the brink, some propose desperate measures to reverse the warming. Why not launch dust into the atmosphere to reflect the sun's rays like an artificial volcano? However, calculations show the cooling effect would be minimal while presenting unknown risks. Now is not the time for such dangerous gambles with the planet's delicate balance. Others suggest seeding the oceans with iron to spur phytoplankton blooms absorbing CO2. But the damage may already be irreversible, and the cure could make things even worse unexpectedly. With conditions deteriorating rapidly, rash measures tempt even the rational. But the hour is too late for such a Hail Mary to pass. We must face the harsh future we have unleashed. In this grim new world, growing enough food and finding water dominate all efforts. Supplying power to the fearful masses crammed into crowded shelters saps precious resources. Armed guards patrol the perimeter, brutally turning away the desperate seeking refuge. Is this what the last outposts of civilization have been reduced to? Many yearn for the old normal, the verdant abundance we foolishly took for granted not so long ago. None alive today remember it, except in archives of our lost Eden. Would we have done things differently had we only known what was to come? Now, such regrets are but ashes on a scorched earth. Despite civilization crumbling, pockets of innovation offer hope that humanity may endure and adapt. In isolated oases, scientists engineer hardy crops and floating cities, racing to revive extinct species. Though deprivation abounds, communities share resources equitably and find purpose in disaster relief efforts, drawing on resilience and compassion. Challenging choices today could still alter our destiny. Time remains to prevent utter ecological and societal collapse, but incremental change is inadequate. Rapid systemic transformation is required. Energy, transportation, infrastructure, and industry must be revolutionized within years. The wealthy must sacrifice luxury to guide a just transition. Research funding must surge to perfect carbon removal and renewables. Cooperation must eclipse competition. Prosperity is impossible in a barren world. Ideals must become policy guided by justice and science. People everywhere must unite in survival's cause. A livable planet remains within reach if we care enough. Though difficult, hope persists. We can manifest a vision of compassion, wisdom, and awakening to build a thriving world. But we must heed warnings and act now. The future remains ours to shape. This is the fight of our lives. There is no time for despair. We have work to do.